All right, guys, how's it going? So, another question that many of us have been pondering is, will Arne Slot have much clout when it comes to signing players? Like, he's obviously now the head coach. Can he come in and say, I want this player, or I want that player, or I worked with this player previously, I would really like to bring him here with me? Or would it be a case of Richard Hughes and Edwards presenting players to him, because he's a head coach and not a manager, like we've signed these for you to work with? Or would it be a combination of everything, of both? And the opinion that I'd given, just based on like hunch, like what you would expect, is that it would be a collective effort. You know what I mean? Like that there would be a bit of that from each, if that makes sense. Like, so the recruitment team and Big E and Dick, they will like say, well, we've identified this player, his stats are amazing and all that. We think he'd be a great, addition to your squad, as Rafa Benitez would say, for sure. I think there'd be a bit of that, and I also thought there'd be a bit of him saying, well, I quite like this kid, like, can we make it happen? So all in all, a committee, if you like. Do you remember the infamous transfer committee of years ago? Back then, there was a lot of question marks as to who was actually on it at times, and then a bit started to filter out. But I don't think the fans really liked the idea of a transfer committee. I know I didn't. But then again, if you're working with people, like if me, you, and a couple of mates were all sat having a beer, talking about Liverpool, what's the difference between us saying, well, I really like him, at Tottenham, or I like him at Real Madrid, whatever. Do you know what I mean? Like, we all have different opinions and input, and fair enough. Do you know what I mean? So, not really sure it's a big deal, if you think about it. But, for me, whether you want to call him a head coach or a manager, if there's someone out there that he wants, he should get him. That's what I think. And the little bit of like, not fear, but the little bit that I'm a little bit concerned about, or have been, is whether the people, the suits are going to say, well, we can get a player with these stats at a cheaper price and shit like that. Like, I'm old school. Do you know what I mean? Like, I like the way that Jurgen was like, he had this say, and obviously they did work collectively and stuff. But at the end, like, they were saying he had too much power, do you know what I mean? Like, and they wanted to take that away. They didn't want to repeat that with the new appointment. Some people, therefore, will say Arne Slot is a yes man and stuff like that. Anyway, so we've all got different opinions, but we've all been wondering, right, as to who will have the final say on this shit, yeah? And we saw, one more thing I will say before I get to what I'm going to tell you about, is when Jurgen left, we saw the digs via the media, from within Anfield, from the new structure, the new people involved in that current structure now, that had made digs about, Jurgen wanted this player, but, people at the club didn't want that player, shit like that, do you know what I mean? Anyway, so the club are briefing the clique, and I'm sorry, I'm covered in fucking dog hair today, man, for some reason. It's been all over me. He's not the only one. The club are currently briefing the clique of journalists, as to little bits and pieces. Now, the clique, they're not really important journalists, but we still listen to what they've got to say, right? They're not up there with Born Again Joyce at the Times or David Ornstein at The Athletic, but they still have a role to play, and the club are happy to work with them. The clique, they're going to be at the press conferences and things like that. So, James Pearce at The Athletic, not many people think James is relevant anymore. I still like to see what James Pearce has got to say. I think he's a good writer when he does features and things like that. But he's not the main man, do you know what I mean? But still, he said the following today, or within the last 24 hours, with regards how it's going to be at Anfield, with now Arne Slot is the new head coach. It will be a collaborative approach, the kind that served Liverpool well previously. If you go back to the early years of the clock reign, the three main decision makers on transfers were him, Mike Gordon, and Michael Edwards. Right? The early years, because in the later years, Jurgen had more clout, and rightly fucking so. Going forward, it will be Edwards, who is the chief executive of football for Fenway Sports Group, who own the club, obviously. The new sporting director, Richard Hughes, and Arne Slot. So going forward, it will be Edwards, Hughes and Slot who decide on each signing. There will be significant input from senior recruitment figures, Dave Fallows, Barry Hunter, Director of Research Will Spearman, who leads a team of data analysis. No player is going to be signed unless Slot wants him. And that is a very, very important statement. And that, to me, eases my concerns a little bit regarding the new structure. Do you know what I mean? Big E and Dick. All right? So that's what I want to hear. No player is going to be forced upon the manager. So that's good. I like that, guys. However, the head coach won't have free rein to do what he wants in the market. It will be about securing consensus. Targets will have to fit a certain style and profile. So it won't have free rein. I don't think any manager really has free rein. But that bit bothers me a little bit because from time to time, this is how you judge, I think, a good manager. Do you know what? I call him a manager. I know he's a head coach. Some pedantic twat pulled me up on it yesterday. This is how you judge a manager, isn't it? By who he can identify. I'm not interested in the people playing championship manager or football manager or whatever the fuck it's called these days. Do you know what I mean? That have never kicked a ball in their life. Yes, data is really important. I made a video recently about a friend of mine that owned a Spanish football club. He recently sold it to David Villa, right? And he was telling me about all it is now, donkeys. Data. But what's he on here? You'd have seen what here around these parts. You know, like he pointed out that data can't contribute to a player's mentality, which you can look at, say, Darwin Núñez, for example. You know, if they're just having a struggle or they can't step up or whatever. And that was one thing that my friend, the person that did own a Spanish football club here, said to me, that you've got all the data in the world, you know, especially with the young players, but that data doesn't tell you if he's going to be fully focused on his career or if he wants to go out and drink on a weekend and party with the girls and really focus. Do you know what I mean? So, as I've said to you many times before, people talk about the movie Moneyball to do with, you know, likening it to how Liverpool's transfer committee works and that. If you've never seen Moneyball, you should watch that movie because this is what it's all about. But I always had, if you watch Moneyball, you then have to watch a film called Trouble with the Curve, which is a Clint Eastwood film, which is about an old-fashioned scout. Nothing to do with data and all that, but to do with, you know, eyesight, ears, what you can see. So a spreadsheet might be able to print out and tell you this, that, and the other about a player and make him look impressive. But a really good experienced scout might be able to say, yeah, but look at the way he runs or something that's not right here or something. Do you know what I mean? So I think you do need a combination. So in summary, I do like the fact that they're saying no one will be forced on him, but he hasn't got free rein. But I don't mind the fact he hasn't got free rein. He can't just go and do what he wants. Well, no manager can. But I would be very, very disappointed if the manager, head coach, is aware of a talent and thinks, look, he's coming through the academy, is my former club or whatever. There is no data to go by, but I think he's going to be a great player. Now, you could argue that they could all sit down collectively and go, okay then. But at some point, I just feel like the manager, head coach, should have the ability to have the rank, pull rank. And this is what it's all about with Michael Edwards. When he came back, if you think about it, you know, about the power, because obviously Jurgen had pulled rank with him previously over issues, and Edwards didn't like it, spat his dummy out allegedly. And that the only reason he would come back was if he had full control, which just happens to coincide with Jurgen Klopp deciding then that he wants to leave. So, but that's another, unfounded seed that I'm trying to plant there, I guess. But I'm not trying to plant it. It's just a fair comment. It's a fact. Jurgen left as soon as when he came back. So maybe Jurgen stayed, Edwards wouldn't have come back. Some people might think Jurgen left because Edwards was coming back. Some people think it's to do with Bellingham and all sorts. And, you know, what we were talking yesterday on that video about a possible bust-up between, and they said Rafa, Jurgen and John Henry. And the majority of you said you think there might be something there, or there definitely was something there regarding the Bellingham thing. I read out to you that fucking really important update I had ages ago, if you remember, about a so-called bust-up over the Bellingham thing because Klopp had worked on it for so long, blah, blah, blah. And it kind of would explain why Liverpool maybe panicked and went for Caicedo if Jurgen was raging or whatever. Anyway, that's another topic. Maybe we'll talk about that in another video. But I just wanted to bring that to your attention because I think it's something really, really important that we've all been thinking about. Would you agree? Let me know your feedback on it. I've got to be honest with you. Like I say, a collective thing, I don't think that's unusual. You know, like if me and you were sat together, I'd be happy to listen to your opinions. But someone somewhere has got to go, I'm in charge here. And what we're hearing, if you think about it, is that it's going to be Michael Edwards, the big E, in charge. He's going to be the one pulling rank. So, at the end of the day, we, as the mere supporters, are not going to give a fuck if we're challenging for things and winning things. That's the most important thing. But I would just be really disappointed if I thought we got this new guy in and he's not going to say, well, hang on, I really want this fuck. I mean, imagine that. All of us have got... If I said to you now, give me one player you'd love to sign realistically, you know, all of us will come up with someone that would go, do you know, to be honest, Duncan, I'd really love to see him at Liverpool to see what he could do. I mean, you could have those opinions, but then someone else might say, yeah, but his stats last year decreased from the previous year, you can't have him. Do you know what I mean? So it gets into that territory. So we'll just have to see. Anyway, the club are putting little snippets out for the low-level journalists, that little clique of journalists. But they're still worth listening to. Do you know what I mean? Because the club just put the random shit out through then. They're not important stuff. Just happy to get that out there kind of thing. Do you know what I mean, guys? Anyway, if you appreciate the video, please thumbs up the video. Drop me a comment. I'm sure you've got something to say about this video. If you want to buy me a beer or a coffee, hit the super thanks button. I'll give you a shout out tomorrow before I go to England. All right? And don't forget, I'll be live on here Saturday afternoon, 3 o'clock-ish, with my son Rob. Many of you have seen him grow up since he was a little lad. He's 24 now. And me and Rob will be having a few sherbets on Saturday afternoon. All right, guys, read the video description, get on the newsletter as well. Cheers.